Good afternoon, and welcome to the Business of People, using mindfulness to resolve internal and external conflicts, presented by the Florida Bar. We hope you enjoy the program, and we thank you for joining us today. If you are currently dialed into the telephone conference, this is a toll-free number, but you also have the option to use voice over IP connection on your computer. To do so, please hang up and click Mic and Speakers under the audio panel on the right side of your screen. A PDF copy of today's presentation has been made available to you for print or download. You may access these documents by clicking on the Handouts panel on the right side of your screen. You are encouraged to submit questions at any time throughout the broadcast by selecting the question panel and typing in your question. Questions will be taken at the end of the program, and questions not addressed within our available time may be answered by way of a post-conference email. The following program is copyrighted material of the Florida Bar. Duplication, transcription, or retransmission of this program in whole or in any part, in any form, is strictly prohibited without written permission from the Florida Bar. At this time, I'll turn the program over to your presenters. Please begin.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for the CLE course titled The Business of People, Using Mindfulness to Resolve Internal and External Conflicts. My name is Hadass Stagman, and I'm moderating this webinar today for the Alternative Dispute Resolution section, of which I serve on the CLE committee. If you are not a member of the Alternative Dispute Resolution section, I encourage you to join this dynamic group. Our membership is comprised of mediators, arbitrators, and attorneys who participate in various forms of dispute resolution. The Alternative Dispute Resolution section offers valuable resources and networking opportunities with others who are leaders in the field of ADR. As to housekeeping matters, the audio feature is turned off for all participants. So if you wish to ask questions of the speaker or need technical assistance, please use the chat feature that is only visible to me, moderator. We welcome questions. However, we will leave the questions to the end so that the speakers can get through their entire presentation. They have agreed to stay a few minutes after the presentation to answer all your questions. The course number for the CLE today is 6561 for 1 hour of CLE and 1 mental health credit. This course also qualifies for 1 CME credit, which does not require a course number as it is self-reporting for the mediator renewal certification. At the conclusion of the CLE, we welcome your quick evaluation of this program using a 1 to 5 star rating, plus any comments you may choose to provide. To access this rating feature, please click the Get Certificate button from the login page. This button will pop up the certificate checklist with steps that include completing the evaluation. Now, I would like to introduce our wonderful speakers today. Patrick Russell is a full-time mediator with Salmon & Dilberg Dispute Resolution and has been certified Florida Supreme Court Civil Circuit Mediator since 2009. Patrick is a graduate of the University of Miami School of Law, has been a lawyer since 1994, and is the former chair of the ADR section of the Florida Bar. Dr. Gus Castellanos graduated from the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine in 1980. He practiced neurology and sleep medicine in northern Palm Beach County, retiring in 2006. Gus is trained and certified to teach MBSR by the University of Massachusetts Medical School Center for Mindfulness and trained with Scott Rogers, JD, and Amishi Jha, PhD, at the University of Miami. Gus lectures widely, writes a bi-monthly mindfulness newsletter with 2,500 subscribers, and serves on Palm Health Foundation's Better Brain Health Advisory Board. Our final speaker is Gen Kelsang Tashi, who is a Buddhist monk and the resident teacher at Kadampa Meditation Centers in Miami. He has been practicing meditation and mindfulness for over 15 years and has taught many classes, events, and retreats throughout Florida. He's appreciated for his clear, lighthearted, and practical instructions on how to develop and maintain a more peaceful and positive state of mind in daily life. Thank you guys for being here today and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you, Hadass.
Thank you.
All right, well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. This should be a very unique and interesting presentation. I think this may be the first ever continuing legal education program that we will have that features a lawyer and a mediator, as well as a medical doctor and a Buddhist monk, all talking about mindfulness and how it can help you with both internal and personal internal, personal, and also external conflicts, and basically how to better deal with people. So this idea came about on the premise that when we try to solve problems in the outside world, a lot of times what we do is we only focus on the outside, right? That may be the easy way to do it. But we also have, and that's what this graphic is displaying, an internal conflict as well, ourselves. And the idea here is that both impact each other. So internal conflicts can affect how you actually approach and deal with the outside, whether it's life, family, or others, and vice versa. Life, family, and others can impact you as well and cause internal conflicts. So that's kind of the genesis of what we're going to be talking about today, is how to actually holistically approach dispute resolution. So in the context of, say, mediation, which is my approach as a mediator and a lawyer, and how you can better solve problems by approaching it from two perspectives, internally as well as externally, and how mindfulness would be a tool for that. So let's start off with Gus. Tell us a little bit about your experience and your thoughts on this problem of the internal and external.
Well, I think you're right on. I'm not sure there's a lot more to add on other than the idea for sure that in the way we're taught as mindfulness-based program teachers, it's the inside-out approach. What we want to keep an eye on, what's happening within me as I'm holding a class, for instance, as well as what's happening in the class. So the awareness of my internal reactivity, my emotions, my body sensations, etc., as well as having to keep an eye on what's happening in the other people, including their emotional state, as well as what they're talking. And so it's really hard to tease apart. It's really all one big thing, inside and outside. And just like you say, whatever's going on in me will impact them. Whatever's happening to them is impacting me.
And what I think the beauty of today's presentation, and I didn't mention, this is totally unscripted, by the way. Okay, so if everybody knows, we decided to have a fireside chat about this. And I think what's going to be interesting is you will all see a perspective from a medical science perspective, from a spiritual Buddhist perspective, as well as from a practical application, perhaps as a lawyer and mediator. And keep in mind, I would like everybody to kind of focus and see if they can see any differences. But more importantly, what are the similarities of what we're all saying? Because we're coming from three different angles, which is, I think, kind of the unique approach. So, Tashi, what would you have to say about the internal versus the external conflicts?
You know, one of the main ideas, you could say, of Buddhist philosophy and practice, meditation, mindfulness, is that the quality of our state of mind has a huge impact on the quality of our experience in life. So if our state of mind is good, if we have a peaceful, constructive, positive state of mind, then generally we'll have a good experience in our life, whatever we're doing. But if our state of mind is very negative or unpeaceful, if our mind is filled with a lot of negative thoughts or painful emotions, then it's very difficult to have a good experience, even if we have very good external conditions in our life. And so, you know, the key point is that the state of our mind matters, and it will make a big difference in terms of the quality of our experience.
And is it safe to say that if you do not address one, you could have problems with the other?
Oh, absolutely. If our state of mind is always unpeaceful and negative, this has a huge impact on our external actions, what we say, what we do. That, of course, impacts other people, can create many problems in our life in terms of our, interactions with our family, our friends, even our job. So all of these things affect one another. It's very important to see that relationship.
And I guess my contribution as the lawyer / mediator would be that if one goes into, whether it be court or mediation, where you're trying to resolve a dispute or a conflict, if you're having a bad day that day, you wake up, a little bit on the wrong side of the bed, something ticks you off early in the morning. From my own personal experience, and I'm sure many people also share this, that is definitely going to affect how you then approach, whether it's a hearing, and how you view people. So you're going to look at perhaps people in a more negative light. You're going to perhaps be a little more brisk and not as creative with your discussions, and maybe a little more forceful. And that may ultimately impact the results that you get, which is, at the end of the day, as a lawyer and a mediator, we are really results driven. And so I think it would be a great disservice if you go into a mediation, a negotiation, or a court hearing, and if you don't take care of yourself first, you're going to really limit your options of how to really resolve that problem. That would be my contribution to my fine co-panelists and that's the beauty of what we're talking about. We have a science approach, medical approach, and also a mindfulness Buddhist approach. So let's talk about really more about what mindfulness is all about. So mindfulness, I love this quote. Mindfulness is awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. That means not taking things personally. That's the way I approach it, at least. And not thinking about the past, so it affects your present, which would impact, obviously, your future. So they're all related. How do you define mindfulness from a medical/neuroscience approach, Gus?
Yeah, you're putting me on the spot because I'm trained by John, so I'm used to using his definition. Still, I deal with enough different populations to have the wording change. I kind of broaden it out a little bit more, just simply being aware of what's happening in the present moment as it's happening. And we do this cultivation of positive qualities while we're doing that. So non-judgmental can be one, but kindness, friendliness, curiosity. So being in the present moment, aware of what's happening in the present moment as it's happening with a curious, friendly attitude. That's more of the psychological view, and the psychologists will tend to take mindfulness and tease it apart to intention, attention, and attitude. So intention, as it says here, paying attention on purpose, and the intention also is why are you practicing it? When people come to my classes for stress reduction or anxiety or depression or pain, etc. And then the attention, of course, is what we're doing. We're cultivating that moment-to-moment attention and awareness. And then the attitude. So again, they include the attitude in that. So this is how, from the so-called, I guess, neuropsychological point of view, as opposed to pure neuroscience. I can then get into later, if you want, which parts of the brains are affected by paying attention on a focused, on an object versus more open awareness versus cultivating, et cetera, et cetera. But different parts of the brains are activated.
So Gus, are there scientific medical studies that actually show evidence of the benefits of mindfulness on the brain?
But practicing mindfulness will change the brain in particular ways. Depending on what the researchers are looking for. So anxiety population is going to be different than a post-traumatic stress disorder population, a rheumatoid arthritis population, performance enhancement for cognitive skills, which is where most of my research goes, things like that. You're going to be looking at different parts of the brain. Practicing any type of mindfulness will generally enhance, it's always hard to word this, enhance the activity positively of the prefrontal cortex, which is that part of the brain that we use for everything we do as humans, in the sense of consciously acting in the world, planning, creativity, performance, attention, and impulse control. Is our executive control center. So that area is enhanced, as are the memory centers. And what is reduced is the amygdala, the activity of the amygdala, which is considered the alarm center that sets off fight or flight when we get activated and even dysregulated and get that sort of anxiety or anger kind of mode coming on, that will be dampened down. So these are just some of the areas. I mean, this, again, depending on the study and what you're looking for, it will change the brain in different ways.
And Tashi, how do you define mindfulness?
So there's a whole school of Buddhist teachings that are all about how to understand the mind, and Buddhist psychology, you could say. It's fascinating. The mind is a wonderfully complex thing with many, many different aspects and parts. Buddhists would say when we talk about mind, that we're more talking about our internal experience. So like you could say the inner world of our thoughts, our feelings, our awareness, it's where we make our decisions, create intentions, have memories, dreams, and so forth. All of this is part of our mind. And Buddhists would make a distinction between meditation and mindfulness. So meditation is all about familiarizing our mind with peaceful, positive ways of thinking and being. And so it's about gaining familiarity with that experience of a peaceful, positive state of mind. And mindfulness specifically would be the part of our mind that remembers to carry that experience into our everyday life. And whenever we practice mindfulness, we have to be mindful of something, right? And so when we're going into our daily life, our conversations with others, we're working, we're cooking, we're relaxing, doing anything, we try to be mindful, which means we try to remember the things that we meditated on formally, the experiences that we have in meditation, experiences of inner peace, loving kindness, compassion, patience, insights, wisdom. We carry all that into our daily life and try to remember it. And that's mindfulness from a Buddhist point of view.
Beautiful. And from your perspective, it sounds more like it's a practice, something that you recognize perhaps you made a mistake, you understand what happened, you review it, and then you vow to do better the next time, or you learn what triggered you, and then to keep improving.
It's very interesting because in reality, we're being mindful of something all the time. If you look at it as just remembering, right? So we're always remembering, paying attention to things, thinking about things. The question is more, what are we being mindful of? And what are we bringing into our everyday life? And so mindfulness as a practice is more about tuning into what our mind is remembering, what we're paying attention to, and trying to be more conscious and intentional about how we do things so that we're bringing the best state of mind that we can to whatever situation we're in.
Very good.
If I can add on really quickly, because I'm not sure if you were headed in this direction, but the so-called neuroscience, a little bit of neuroscience, what the idea here is, mindfulness is that it's a state. We can create that state intentionally of paying attention. And if you do that repeatedly, it's also a practice to achieve that state. If you do, so there's the practice. And then if you do it enough, it becomes a trait. It becomes more likely by wiring the brain in a certain way to be more present, more mindful, and more remembering what you're supposed to be doing. I did forget to mention I did mention the memory centers are improved by mindfulness practices according to neuroscience. So as Tashi was mentioning, the remembering aspect, you can see why the memory centers would be enhanced. But it's a state, a practice, a trait, and I think Tashi emphasized it's an innate capacity we have. It's not a new skill that we're learning, or you have to go out and figure out how to do it. It's something we all can do. So.
It's remembering.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that would probably be a simple one-word definition, perhaps. And from what I'm hearing, because I heard again, I'm going to keep on emphasizing this from a scientific perspective, and I also heard it from a spiritual Buddhist perspective, but I didn't hear a lot about religion here. So is mindfulness solely in the domain of religion, or is it, or not? Because I know that there's some some thoughts out there that mindfulness is a religion, so I'm not going to practice it because I already have my religion, whatever that may be. So I'm going to go right to you, Tashi, first of all.
Yeah, I think anyone can. I think anyone can practice mindfulness, whether religious or not, spiritual or not. It's something that is, I think, anyone can take an interest in, get some familiarity with, and get some benefit from it.
Okay, and Gus, when you review mindfulness as a medical doctor, is that necessarily a religion for you?
Yeah, some people think science is a religion, but in a traditional religious sense, no. But yeah, and also just on a more practical basis, I teach for organizations like Mindful Kids Miami, which is a nonprofit plugged into the Dade County public school system. And we really have to be careful with any kind of connotation for any religion one way or another, not supporting or favoring one, but also not against any religion. So we really have to, I don't want to say strip away, it's more the languaging, being careful when we offer the classes, how we don't get too far off on words that may sound more religious to certain people. So, it's not to say that it can be used with any religion as far as I can tell, including people who are atheists. Yeah.
All right. I think we all can agree it's a tool, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So, benefits of mindfulness. I'm going to go straight to you, Gus, because the first one is from a medical perspective. You gleaned a little bit on it earlier. Anything you would want to add here from your particular viewpoint as to the benefits of mindfulness from a medical perspective?
Yeah, I can widen it out a little. So back to since I'm a neurologist, I always favor the brain changes, but just the practicing of mindfulness and more or less anyway, whatever the intention might be, will change the brain in healthy ways that are useful, like I mentioned. But again, specifically looking for certain help with certain things if it's been tried in so many medical and mental health issues out there that it's hard to list them all these days. But in the physical domain, it's helpful with things like pain. It's really, really useful for chronic pain. It's also things that you can imagine as reduces stress and things like that. So it's helpful for heart disease and stroke prevention and blood pressure. But it does work on at a genetic level on things like inflammation and immune system. So it's something more. The point I'm making there is it's just not simply a mind over matter kind of thing. There's something that's going on there, more physical, if you will. A whole host of physical benefits, cancer treatment, HIV, skin diseases even. But in the mental health is where the most impact is. So depression, anxiety, insomnia, relapse prevention, and drugs and alcohol has been found to be very useful. A lot of work in ADHD and some on psychosis and suicidality, and a fair amount on trauma. But those need to be done with skilled and experienced teachers and clinicians, let me say. It's not something that should be just done randomly, especially if you have severe PTSD or you're suicidal. And then finally, the cognitive skills, been well known to show helps with mind wandering, distractibility, as well as focused attention and working memory, as was stated. So.
Okay, so from what I heard, a lot there deals with wandering thoughts and focus and intention.
Yeah. It's the bringing of the mind back to the moment, remembering what you're doing, remembering here, we're cultivating this attention and this positive qualities. So.
Calming down, not getting triggered. So from a lawyer/mediator's perspective, all right, again, taking us back to court, if opposing counsel says or does something, which happens quite often, that may trigger you, you do not want to have that take you down a rabbit hole, right? And if you were to actually be mindful of that state where you're about to be triggered or are being triggered, And at that point, become mindful of that moment and say, oh, I'm going to take a step back. I'm not going to let that take me down that rabbit hole, because that's going to have some bad consequences one way or the other. It's not conducive or helpful to what we're here for. That's where it comes in from a lawyer's perspective of helping you overcome and have a better result. You're not getting triggered by external influences. You're just seeing things as they are. You're doing problem solving, more or less, not being reactive. All right, Tashi, tell us from your perspective, the benefits of mindfulness.
I think we can look at it from two different points of view, the benefits to ourselves and the benefits to others. So with regard to ourselves, definitely the practices of meditation, mindfulness, they help us to develop a more peaceful, positive, constructive state of mind. And as I mentioned earlier, when our state of mind is peaceful, positive, we generally have a sense of well-being. It's easier to get things done. It's easier to do good things. That peaceful, positive mind has a good influence on our whole experience and all of our actions, what we say, what we do. And I think when our state of mind is good, we're protected from a lot of potential difficulties like feelings of stress and anxiety, worry, frustration, irritability, difficulty thinking clearly. All of those things can be prevented by developing, maintaining a peaceful mind through practices like mindfulness. So that's a little bit like the benefit to ourselves. And of course, if we're practicing these things and keeping a peaceful, positive mind in our daily life, that's going to influence what we say and do in a positive way, which of course helps others, right? So, if we're acting and talking in very kind, beneficial ways towards others, that improves our relationships with them. It helps us understand others better. We can maybe be in a better position to help them. Talking about mediation and trying to resolve conflicts and disputes, all of that becomes easier if we maintain a positive, constructive state of mind.
Yes, excellent. And carrying forward that thought, Tashi, in applying those concepts to mediation, whether it's a mediator or a lawyer, I think when you are mindful and you keep the bigger picture in mind and you be kind, you're kind, you're being objective, not reactive, I think that helps build rapport. You establish a good relationship with the other party, at least for the purposes of problem solving. You're not necessarily going to be your best friend, but you're there to build rapport for a common purpose of solving a problem. And I think that goes a long way to solving problems, but also life is too short to have a lot of anger. And, that leads to unprofessional conduct for lawyers, which is a big emphasis in the Florida bar, professionalism, civility. So if one is mindful, that has a really big benefit to helping you build better relationships with parties, your own clients, opposing counsel, judges, whoever you need to work with as a lawyer. So excellent, guys. So now I'm going to share what I love this graphic, and I always try to show it when I can, about a pet owner and Fido, let's say, in the park. And there's a difference between a mind that's full, which would obviously be our pet owner there on the left, versus mindful, right? So Fido there is actually the one that's being mindful, because what is he seeing? He sees the park, he sees the sunny sky, and he's looking forward to having a good time. Meanwhile, the owner has all kinds of things going on in his mind, right? He has a mind that is literally full of things. It looks like unpaid bills, perhaps marital issues, traffic, right? All kinds of things going on. But what's noticeably absent? What's in the present right in front of him, that park and that sunny day. And that really, to me, is a beautiful depiction of what mindfulness is all about, and the benefits and where you want to be. And in terms of like dealing with mindfulness, not only is for the internal, as we discussed, but the external. But how about we do real quickly, because I'm sure a lot of people are still wondering this. Now we know what mindfulness is. We know the benefits of it. How does one be mindful? Like, what is it? Tell us, what is this thing? So Gus, if you could give us a little brief blurb of how one can be mindful.
Well, what we teach is to just be present with whatever it is that's happening on a moment-to-moment basis. And like Tashi was saying before, mindfulness and meditation are not exactly the same thing. There are mindfulness meditations that we teach to help be in the present moment and cultivate that moment-to-moment awareness. But you can do it during any activity you do all day. And it's just being there. And what I hear in the classes all the time is, oh, my mind's wandering and all this. And we just refocus that and say, well, how do you know your mind's wandering? And people usually got a whole bunch of excuses like, I got this going on, and I'll keep walking them down that path. How do you know you have that going on until they finally realize, oh, I'm aware that that's what's going on. So bringing it back to kind of, take it easy on yourself. If you're aware that your mind is doing all this mind wandering, you're starting to catch on, that you're starting to become more aware of what's going on there, and then chip away closer and closer. In our world, by the way, the goal isn't necessarily to get rid of all that stuff that's happening. It's more giving you the opportunity to see when it's useful to have a lot on your mind and when it's not useful. What are you going to do with that? And do you have a little bit more control to focus your attention on what you think is important rather than being swept away, especially in our day and age that we're in with all the distractions. So
when you actually develop an awareness that your mind is wandering or it's full of, competing ideas, is that itself, that's actually the state of being mindful, is it not?
If you're aware of it with that certain qualities of being, I'm intentionally being aware, I'm noticing that my mind is doing this, and particularly how that's affecting the body. We use the body awareness quite a bit. I can feel my body. That will bring you right into the state that we're looking for.
And then also physically, if you feel getting triggered, right? You get some sort of sensations, whether it's in the knees, the elbows, your forehead, the back of your neck, and you actually are aware of that, and you decide not to let that take you to the next phase, which may involve a bad word, a bad action. That also, one would say that's probably also you're becoming mindful, right? It's about awareness and recognition.
Right, correct. The body knows what's happening. Actually, with the nervous system, not to get too far into this neurocentric world that I'm in, but the autonomic nervous system will tell you what's going on before the conscious mind actually figures it out. So, like when you're under stress, you'll have it going on in the body very subtly before you start recognizing it. So.
Yeah, our body is an amazing tool, isn't it? A barometer. All right, Tashi, tell us, how can one be mindful?
I mentioned earlier that when we practice mindfulness, there always needs to be an object that we're mindful of. So it's important what object we are remembering, what it is we're paying attention to, how we're paying attention to it. And so when we practice mindfulness, what it means is that we're trying to remember and pay attention to what makes us feel peaceful and what has a positive influence on our state of mind and our actions. And so, for example, you can practice being mindful of being kind or cherishing others, having a good intention towards other people, and try to have that intention positively influence everything you say and do. Or you could be mindful of gratitude. You're appreciating the moment, you're appreciating other people, appreciating what is appearing, and you're trying to keep that forefront in your mind as you go about your daily life, your interactions with others. So you're talking with someone and you're thinking, I appreciate this person. I care about this person's well-being. My intention is to benefit them if I can. May I say something that will help them? And so you're remembering that, but you're also, doing what you need to do. You're in your daily activities. But one part of your mind is being mindful. of something that's positively influencing your life, your experience, and your state of mind.
Excellent. All right. So now I think, Gus, you were alluding to this a little bit. Here's your opportunity to talk a little bit about the science. All right. So the indicators and effects of stress. So here you can give us all that good stuff of what the science tells us of what it feels like and what it does.
In 1 minute, right?
Yeah.
I think that it's an easy conversation to some extent, just like when I talk about, when people ask me about sleep, just because it's so common. Everybody has an experience with stress. The word is stress almost in any language, but the remembering that stress in itself is not necessarily a bad thing. It's associated with bad things because our society describes stress as this. It's not good. And I think mostly we're talking there about chronic stress or distress, because sometimes having a little bit of stress, being pumped up and having to, for instance, getting excited is similar to a stress response, except you're just seeing the situation differently than if it's anxiety. At the same time, a stress response is necessary for our survival. It is, it's well known as fight or flight for the most part. So the physiology of that has to run through our stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. And I think most people know what adrenaline does. It's to energize us. It makes us alert, dilates our pupils. We're hyper focused, and we increase energy to the arms and legs, etc. And cortisol does a number of things too, including, by the way, shut down the prefrontal cortex. The executive center and the memory centers get shut down, because when you're in that stress response survival mode, you don't want to be thinking about a whole bunch of things. It's really it's to be done very quickly, a few minutes. There's a threat, danger, let me get out of it, and then calm down, which is where mindfulness can be very helpful. Mindfulness and similar practices, how to calm down, which is the resilience aspect. The stress response is not the bad thing. It's how we handle it chronically and long term. But
let me ask you something. So this would be pointed to the lawyers. So the profession often wears stress as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Right? If you're not stressed, if you're not working hard, you're not working long hours, if you're not making your billable hours, if you're not yelling, if you're not screaming, if you're not getting things out, then you're just not a lawyer. I mean, I don't agree with that, but that seems to be a lot of the misconceptions of what lawyering is all about. So you have to be stressed. What I would like you to talk about or to discuss is what would be the effects of that type of a lifestyle long term on a lawyer, of just basically uncontrolled, almost addictive stress, right?
Yeah, adrenaline junkies for sure. So you're right, and here it is. It's the chronicity of it, the repetitiveness, whether it's just chronic stress ongoing or up and down. Courtroom one day, come home, courtroom like that over and over. And again, not to plug mindfulness, but without awareness, what happens is it'll start wearing and tearing on just about every organ in the body, from head to toe, from the mental health to the brain, to the eyes, to the skin, to, of course, the cardiovascular system, the lungs, the GI tract, the reproductive system. All of that will eventually start getting affected. Our immune system gets shot. And I can give you the details on each single one, but you pretty much can know more or less every organ system in your body. So the body starts declining. It ages quicker. It can't bounce back from adversity well as time passes, and so it becomes a self-fulfilling process. More of these things, more of your organs break down, it causes more stress, and on it goes. It's what we call the stress reactivity cycle. But then there's the other component. So I'll see if I can do this very quickly. So there's generally the adaptive response to stress is fight, flight, and then there's freeze, which is the collapse mode, which is when things are very life-threatening and it's hopeless, we collapse. We literally play dead, just like an opossum does, and that's a survival technique. In the real world, it's more like the people that shut down and dissociate as a way of, for instance, protecting themselves from trauma. So we have the maladaptive Fs. So when we are under chronic stress, we don't feel good. So we start doing things that are not appropriate to help ourselves feel better. The most common one, part of my language, is to get effed up, or drugs and alcohol. But then there's food. Then there's behaviors like workaholism, gambling, sex, shopping, irresponsible money, or throwing fits at people, or denying and suppressing. We call that forget about it. Stuffing it down rather than addressing it eventually. And then some people become what we call fixers. They have chronic stress and they start helping other people, the caregivers, and leading to the caregiver burnout. Every time somebody's stressed, go out and help somebody else. I'm feeling the stress response. I'm getting agitated. I'm feeling not good. Let me go help somebody. That's a good thing. Again, done without awareness repetitively will lead to enabling, rescuing, caregiver burnout, things like that. So yeah, organ system failure, just about every one of them, maladaptive coping. And of course, all of that does not solve the problem. It just perpetuates the stress.
Yeah, I think that it would come to no surprise to you, Gus, that a lot of those behaviors that you mentioned they can be high and are probably in a higher proportion per capita per population in the legal field than in other careers. So it's really a big deal and a big problem. But certainly mindfulness in your experience is one way to help with that. So on that note, let's talk about how to manage yourself with mindfulness so that we don't have those maladaptive behaviors, how we don't get to that point of becoming a possum and shutting down, right? So Tashi, tell us some simple tips of how one can manage oneself in a mindful way.
Sure. So I was thinking about this in preparation for our chat today, and I came up with a few ideas about this. So one thing is to try to get in the habit of checking in frequently with yourself and your own state of mind. So throughout the day, creating a new habit of asking yourself, how's my mind? What state is my mind in? I think we can pretty quickly tell the difference between a stressed out state of mind and a calm, relaxed state of mind. And so generally, it's just checking and being more aware. What state is my mind in? We're so usually very focused on the external situation, what other people are doing or not doing, what I need to get done, what's happening, not happening outside. But we're not used to checking in and seeing how's my mind. Because if we were more aware of what our state of mind was, there's things we can do to actually change it, to improve it. But if we're not aware, we can't do anything about it. So, the first piece of advice about managing ourselves, I would say, is to create this habit of checking in. How's my mind? And then if you notice that your mind is stressed out, that there's a lot of negative thoughts, there's feelings of frustration, irritability, you're starting to get annoyed, unhappy, to immediately take some action to improve your state of mind. And there's so many tools that we can turn to, things that are make a big difference in the quality of our state of mind. Meditation, mindfulness, practice, of course, even just stepping away from the situation and trying to get into a different environment can be helpful. As Gus was alluding to earlier, sometimes our go-to to feel better can be things that are actually more destructive in the long run, or that maybe give us a quick boost but don't actually help us solve the problem. It's just sort of putting like a Band-Aid over it or covering it up. And so we need to find solutions that actually help in a lasting way. We need to find what works for us, to find something that doesn't cause more problems, but actually helps us in a real way. And I think at the end we've planned I'll guide a little meditation or mindfulness session for a few minutes so we can get a taste for how that works. And the other point I would say is it's so important to catch negative or unpeaceful, stressed out states of mind early. Because if we can become aware in the early stages of some stress or irritability or anxiety arising, it's easier to manage it then and to reduce it than it is if we kind of let it accumulate over a period of time. Then it becomes very difficult to control it. And again, that goes back to checking in. If we're checking in and we're more aware of our state of mind, then we can catch it early and we can do something about it.
Excellent. And I think one tip that I heard about checking in on yourself is you want to develop a habit. I think there's that saying out there, you need to do something 10,000 times to actually perfect it and be good at it. So I think the same thing applies to being mindful. It's going to be a habit. It's going to be a trait, I think you said, Gus, right? Is the one tip that I heard is checking in during meals, because we all eat. And we have generally a breakfast and a lunch and a dinner. So checking in during those 3 time periods would be a good, easy way to actually develop that new habit. And then maybe you do more frequently, but at least you're now mindful of checking in because now you do it during those time periods.
I think also in a professional setting or even just in daily life, between activities is a good time to check in. So if you're about to have a meeting with someone, take 2 minutes before that meeting and check your mind and calm your mind using whatever techniques work for you. Because we have always these little gaps between things. 5 minutes here, 15 minutes before my next meeting, 10 minutes before I do that. So use those opportunities instead of like distracting yourself with things that might stress out or agitate your mind even more, like checking the news or social media. Use those couple of minutes to check in with your mind and get your mind into a better state so that whatever you're about to do will have a better quality to it.
Yeah, and then applying that to the lawyer and for mediation, that's just before your hearing, right? Take that time, not even necessarily to be reviewing your notes of what you're going to argue, right? But actually, you'll be more effective. You'll probably remember more if your mind isn't distracted to start. And then you'll be more calm, more peaceful, and a more confident person at that point. And then also what I like to do is the after action report, right? So after that court hearing, after that mediation, how did that go? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? What could have been better? How did I react to that person, to that situation? Could I have been more mindful of that event? And that helps you improve the next time. It's just a constant improvement process. So Gus, how about your perspective of, so we talked about the internal, that's what Tashi did. What's your perspective of how to deal with the outside and with others in a mindful way? How do you do that?
Yeah, and to add on to what we say, you can drop in and just check in any moment. So it's before a meeting, after a meeting, we can do it right now. You can just sort of pause and you can notice that you can still listen and hear, pay attention to a speaker while you're still just checking in. How are you feeling? What's going on in your mind? And what happens there is the more that we are able to know what's going on with us, and then we develop the habits to what we call regulate our emotions. That makes it easier to co-regulate is what we do, other people's emotional states. The more we're aware of our own nervous system's reactivity or calmness, the more that we recognize whether we're in the stress, fight or flight mode or not, the more we can pick up on others. So the more clear-headed we are, the more we obviously can be clear of what's happening around us. We can see more clearly. But there is the tendency also that our nervous systems co-regulate. So many of us have had that experience where you walk in to see somebody else. You say, I can see that you're angry, but you're probably feeling that they're angry just as much as seeing it. And because our nervous systems, it's our faces, it's the voice, the tone of the voice, it's the energy we're putting out, all of that. And if we can notice that we're feeling that way and take a moment to regulate ourselves, it will help the other people, the other situation. And it makes it easier not only to have more ease and peace with everybody else, but how we communicate then becomes more effective. More, if you want to use the word compassionate, for sure. more in a way that's not going to be so threatening and all of that, where I don't know how useful that is for you guys, Patrick, but to the extent that you're trying to solve and have some kind of situation resolved, it would seem like it would be better if you're checking in with your own emotions and being aware of what's happening with the other people as clearly as possible.
Well, I think by what you just said, Gus, it makes the whole point about how the internal directly impacts the external and vice versa. And the way that a good application of that in the legal sense is that if one is being mindful and is being compassionate, empathetic, confident, calm, that you are a mirror to the other people, and that will give an example for them to follow. I mean, I think we all can have the example that if you are in a calm state and somebody jumps into the room all aggravated and hyper and furious, that your state of calmness is going to change, right? And you're going to start mirroring that person. You're going to get some of their anxiety. But the reverse also applies. You can have, even on a room where there's tension, so I see it all the time in mediation, where there's obvious tension between the parties. But if one comes in, whether you're the mediator or one of the lawyers, and you exhibit a nice mindful behavior and showing a good example of being calm and confident and being able to be in control of your own emotions, the other people are more prone to follow that. And that can really reduce the tension and anxiety in a room. And that's how you can start building a collaborative environment where then people jointly solve a problem where before they weren't. They were at each other's necks, right? Here, you're trying to get them to put down their swords and let's solve some problems. Focus on the solutions, not the problems, because that's what people like to talk about, the problems a lot, right? But if we start building rapport with people with the sole purpose of how to solve a problem, then we're getting somewhere. So I think we are at our point where, Tashi, you can guide us through a breathing meditation practice.
Okay, great. So I mentioned we always need an object to be mindful of when we practice mindfulness. So in a practice of breathing meditation, what we are mindful of is the feeling of our breath. And so this is a very powerful, effective tool that we can use to calm our mind anytime that we feel stressed, anxious, frustrated, or in a negative state of mind. We can use just a simple breathing mindfulness or meditation practice to help us. And it doesn't have to be a long time. It can be even just 5 minutes, which is what we'll have, I think, right now. So, all right, so let's dive in. So the way we can begin this kind of practice is by finding a comfortable posture. And the most important is to make sure that we're sitting comfortably with our back straight, but not tense. And if you like, you can allow your eyes to gently close to gather your focus inwards. Take a moment to just check in with your body. Notice how your body feels in this moment. If you feel any stress or tension, allow this to gently begin to fall away as you settle into your meditation seat. So relax the shoulders, loosen the jaw, let go of any tension in the muscles in the face, especially around the eyes. Just settle in, let your body relax, and be still. Take a moment to direct your attention to the sensation of your breathing. There's no need to change or control the breath in any way. Just observe the natural flow and movement of air as you breathe. Pay attention in particular to the sensation that you feel as the air flows through the nostrils. Noticing how the air feels cooler as you breathe in. How the air feels slightly warmer as you breathe out. Allow yourself to forget everything else, all your problems, worries, concerns. None of that matters right now. All we need to do in this moment is breathe, and be mindful of the peaceful feeling of our breath. Stay with this feeling, observing in a relaxed way. You notice many thoughts arising, your mind feels very busy. If you like, you can feel that as you exhale, you let go of anything interfering with your concentration or peace of mind. Imagine all the worries, all the busy thoughts disappear far into space as you exhale. When the thoughts subside, with your inhale breath, bring your awareness down to the heart. Try to feel as if you're meditating or concentrating there. Get out of your head, down into the heart center. Just notice the state of your body and mind, being focused on your breath in this way. To whatever extent you feel more calm, relaxed, or peaceful, stay with this experience for the final few moments of this practice. When you feel ready, you can gently relax your focus, allow your eyes to open as you rise from the meditation. Okay, thank you.
All right. Beautiful, Tashi. And I think a common experience when I started to meditate is that my mind was wandering all over the place and I felt frustrated. Any tips or advice, Tashi, when that happens for somebody that first starts this?
I think it's good to know that that's completely normal and not to worry too much, because in the beginning, if we're not familiar with focusing our mind in an intentional way like we just did, then it's not easy to do. But with practice, with familiarity, it definitely gets easier. And if we don't worry so much about the outcome, thinking, oh, I need to be peaceful right now, I need to make my mind more peaceful. If we're not doing that and we're just focusing on the process itself, the practice itself, then the result will come naturally on its own. We don't need to worry.
Perfect. Gus, if folks want to be able to reach out to you with questions or help, how do they do that?
Yeah, I think I love questions. It makes me a better what I do for a living, teach and research these programs. So my website is innerinmate, all one word, innerinmate.com. So to remind people, many people have an inner child that they could check my inner child. Well, I have an inner inmate. So if you just go innerinmate.com, you can find a contact form and then some of the stuff I'm doing these days. So.
Perfect. And Tashi, how about you?
So I teach classes regularly on a weekly basis at Kadampa Meditation Center, which is located in Coral Gables on Miracle Mile. You can find our website, meditationinmiami.org, and there you can see our contact info. You can shoot an email to us, and someone will forward it to me. Or you can drop in and join us for a class if you like.
Excellent, thank you. If anybody has questions for me as the lawyer mediator in terms of having mindful mediations, which is what I try to do, I'm a mediator here in Miami, Selman Dahlberg, and I can be reached at pr@meaningful-mediation.com. All right. I think we've reached the end. Is Hadass still there to give us any final questions, notes, or comments? There we go.
That was excellent. And Tashi, that relaxation was amazing. Thank you so much, all of you, for this wonderful and very informative presentation. There's only one question, and that is, how does someone who is interested in starting this type of mindfulness practice, how do you suggest that they start? What resources or what can you direct them to get them started on that journey?
Tashi, how about you handle that first, and then Gus?
Sure. So there's lots of resources out there. On our website that I just mentioned, meditationinmiami.org, you can find a free audio guided meditation, very similar to what I just did, but about 12-15 minutes long. And you can listen to that anytime that you want. It's on the website for free. There's lots of things you can find on, YouTube and other places. Just search for meditation, mindfulness, of course. If you wanted a more sort of class environment and learning more specifically, our center offers lots of classes. You're very welcome to come and check them out. But like I mentioned, there's lots of things out there where you can find resources.
All right, and Gus?
Yeah, I would say I have a YouTube channel. It seems to work across all digital devices better than my website. But if you just put my name with YouTube, I have a whole bunch of practices there, mostly done with my classes. I agree with Tasha. There's a lot in there, and the only thing is, and there's a lot of apps. And the reason why I'm saying this, it's best to have some kind of guidance, especially when you're first started. It maybe not right away, but you can certainly start with something on your own, but get some guidance, some personal feedback, not some, just a bland podcast where they're just speaking. Those are informative, but to have some kind of interaction with somebody can maybe guide you one way or another, or you certainly can ask questions is real, real useful, especially when you're first starting.
And I personally use an app called the Insight Timer. So it's a good way to keep track of not only how long you meditate, but when. So it's a really nice log. But on top of that, it has different types of music. It can be guided. And if you pay for the subscription, which is not that much, they have literally hundreds, if not thousands, of guided meditations. Similar apps would be like Calm or the Waking Up app as well, but I think so. Those are some resources that I'm aware of as well.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I want to thank all three of you, Patrick, Gus, and Tashi, for an excellent presentation. And thank all of you for participating in the webinar today, provided by the Alternative Dispute Resolution section. Again, the course number for today is 6561 for 1 hour of CLE credit and 1 mental health credit. We hope you found this program insightful, and we welcome your feedback through a quick evaluation available from the Get Certificate button on the login page, as well as any suggestions for future programming. I also want to bring your attention to several upcoming webinars that we have. We have numerous webinars about arbitration that can be found on our website. We also have next week the Professionalism in ADR webinar presented by Tad David, Chief of the DRC. And we have a Mediation Mentoring Academy that has been scheduled for February 24th and 25th. This is a 2-day advanced level workshop and is in person in Tampa, which offers a unique opportunity for mediators to receive coaching and live instructive feedback on mediation strategies and techniques. This is an excellent program that hopefully you can join and has had amazing reviews. So thank you all for being here today and participating and educating us on this amazing and important topic. And have a great day, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Be mindful.